My name is Michelle. I'm part of the Tribal Hub team and your webinar host today. And I'd like to thank you for being here with us for the Modernize Your Tribal Court Case Management Solution webinar. Presenting today, we have Bryan Schmidt from Arctic IT, and he's the Principal Solution Architect. And we have Sonia Montero from the Shingle Springs Band, the Tribal Court Director. The presentation today will be recorded for unlimited viewing. You can find it on TribalWise.com. You'll also get an email tomorrow with a copy of the recording so you can share it with any of your coworkers. The presentation today includes an overview of the Arctic IT Tribal Court software features, a demo of the application, and a discussion of how Shingle Springs made their decision to use this technology. Sonia and her team recently implemented the solution and use this technology to manage their own tribal court as well as a tribal court for other tribes. We will be taking questions, so make sure you use the Q&A option or the chat to put in your questions. We are going to hold those till the end, but still put them in there and we'll go through them after the presentation. And a couple of other upcoming webinars we have. You can always go over to TribalWise.com and see what we have coming up on the calendar. And for any of you who are in the southeast or central regions of the country, we are having our regional events coming up the first part of November. So you can head over to TribalHub.com and check those out. And now with all that said, I'm going to stop sharing and hand the presentation over to you and the team, Bryan.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome for everyone joining us. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule and attending this webinar. I think you're going to learn quite a bit in options and solutions that are all available for your tribal court. So one of the things we want to do is just quickly go through the agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about Arctic IT, who we are, and then we're going to dive right into the solution overview, talk a little bit about the platform of what we built and how it works. And then we're going to dive into the project success story, working with Sonia and her group at Shingle Springs Band to see that, get her feedback, and then we'll dive into the solution demo after that. All right, so a little bit about Arctic IT. We are a native-owned organization. We are owned by Doyon Limited. We've been working in tribal space over 15 years, probably creeping up on 20 years now. We have over 80 clients that we work with in the tribal government and helping many different aspects, from finance to tribal court and enrollment, just about everything. But we specialize in government and casino operations, and we are one of the few or only gold Microsoft partner that works in Indian country. So we have a special relationship with Microsoft and bringing the technologies to tribes across the United States. We do have a national footprint. You can see little pins here across the United States and Alaska of our clients that we work with all the time. So we are deeply rooted in Indian country, and we're really put our focus on helping organizations improve and modernize their operations. All right, so let's dive into the solution and some of the reasons why we built out this application suite. And really what it is focusing on, migrating from legacy system that you either using spreadsheets or paper and pencil, or, all kinds of legacy applications that are typically not very secure and vulnerable for outages or damages to the computer or whatever. And migrating those solutions out to the cloud. And so that's one aspect of we take a security first aspect to every project that we work with. We understand the sovereignty and the security of the data that is so important to you, and we build that into the implementation and make sure that we are giving you the most secure solution, but yet accessible and usable by your team. So this is a really important step for many different organizations in terms of modernizing and replacing those legacy applications that maybe have been used for a long time, but bringing the latest technology to bear and apply the security principles. And we're seeing this across across the entire spectrum of all the different tribal governments. So this move to adopt the cloud-based systems and provide these services both for your members as well as improving your operations. So a little bit more, we actually use what's called Dynamics 365, which is a software as a service application. And that provides the mobility, meaning that you can access the application from any device, as long as you have an internet connection. You can log in and securely connect to your data and have access to it anytime on any device. So you're no longer tied into the office on a specific computer. You can take that data with you and answer questions wherever you may be. And that's an important element for many tribes and clerks and teams to be able to have access to that information. But yet we're actually applying lifecycle to, not only maintain it, but upgrade it, keep it current and on latest technology offerings that Microsoft provides to us. So that's an important element as well. And it's completely integrated into the Microsoft 365 applications, such as Teams, Outlook, Word, Excel, so forth. So we get to pick up a lot of capabilities because we're integrated to the Dynamics 365. But what we do is we build out the tribe-specific functionality on top of this platform. So we truly deliver it as a software as a service for your organization. And just a brief, there's over 300 clients that have actually moved to the cloud in some fashion, and there's over 60 organizations that are actually using Dynamics 365 in some capacity. And we're helping Microsoft and tribes work through that adoption and migration. So there's a lot of benefits that we can bring to your organization by making this move. All right, so now we've talked a little bit about the platform. Now let's take a look at the application suite itself. So on top of Dynamics 365, we've actually implemented this Tribal Platforms 4.0. It's a suite of applications that what we consider it to be is a member master database. So it's a place for you to manage who are your enrolled members, and then be the center of the service delivery for your organization, and being able to allow your members to engage with your tribal government staff through this suite of applications, including, enrollment is obviously the center of that, but with family wellness and the community portal, you can have access and provide services out to your community members and be able to manage participation in all these different applications. And Tribal Court is one application in that suite that allows you to securely share that information about who is a member, who's not a member, maybe other information about the individual, such as their current address, contact information. So it streamlines the ability for your team to work together across department, but yet secure the data for only the information that your team should have access to. And it's got a really strong workflow and business rule and automation engine behind the scene that we get to bring to bear and make available to you through this platform. And then these are just some of the quick applications that are included. So family wellness is at family and social services. Community portals at member-facing portal that allows you to engage with your members. And then we're going to specifically focus on Tribal Court today and talk about the life cycle of managing those court cases. And then the distribution payments, that's in some organizations call that per capita payments, but that is another application that's available in this suite. So now let's take a closer look at the Tribal Court, and specifically we're going to talk about the court case life cycle and the different types of cases that you can manage, collect or organize your court parties and the experts that are engaging on that court case, manage your hearings and schedule them and communicate the appointments for those hearings with the people that are the parties on these cases, and then give your judges and your clerks dashboards that they would have access to. So you can see, the different items that are available here, but we're going to dive into each one of these areas and show you how that capability provides you the flexible way to implement this Tribal Court solution for your organization. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sonia to talk through a success story and how it worked for you. Sonia?
Thank you, Bryan. Well, first, thank you for having me here, and thanks to Arctic IT, and hello, everyone out there. So my name is Sonia Montero. I'm the Tribal Court Director for Shingle Springs, and I'm not going to follow word by word because you can read what's on here, but I wanted to kind of give you a background on how our tribe came to the decision to use Arctic IT and kind of what our success has been with them. It's a little bit of background is that we previously had a different database, and we had it for about 3 years. It just was not working, and that became obvious day by day. It was far too complex for our clerks to use, and it really wasn't on point because it had been one of these modules that had been developed by a different company that was more geared toward health and wellness rather than courts. So then we switched to Excel, and we just did Excel spreadsheets, and that was inefficient. Certainly a lot of clerks spent a lot of hours updating information, which could now be updated in 10 seconds on the platform like Arctic. So when we chose Arctic IT, we actually went through 4 different vendors, and I don't know if some of you are doing it right now, but we asked for different demos from different companies and just found that really Arctic IT was simple, but it was robust. It was really what we needed, and how something that would be able to grow with us. And a little bit about our core, we started out with, like many courts do, just doing maybe 1 or 2 different types of cases. We've now branched out into, we have at least 6 different types of dockets. We also are a court that can, that we have contracts with 2 other tribes aside from our own tribe. We're also their tribal court. So we have to manage a lot of moving parts. And we just found that Arctic IT was simple enough for clerks that don't have a lot of experience in databases to use, but at the same time, it was easy to capture the information that we could then use, and it was easily understandable by a lot of our clerks, no matter where they are on their computer knowledge skills. So that's kind of in a nutshell why we came to Arctic IT. The price was also right. Because we also priced out all the 4 vendors that we used, and they were reasonable for what they were giving us. And moving forward, also for the maintenance and all of that, we found it was something that we could budget in, and it wasn't so difficult to do, unlike some other companies that we saw that were just, they had lots of bells and whistles and they look really pretty, but a lot of those things aren't things that we would use. Our court is we're in California, it's a public law 280 state. We have certain types of cases that we do use, and it was just perfect for that. So Bryan, I don't know if you want me to go through.
Well, maybe Sonia, what was one of the most important factors in the decision, for just going through the selection process of the different vendors that you were evaluating? What was one important factor that led you to choose our tribal court solution?
Probably I would say the templates, because one of the things we always struggled with, a lot of time was spent in just doing notices of hearing or different documents that courts routinely sent out. So one of the things that we did is that we worked with the programmers. We had pretty much 10, they gave us 10 different, we gave them 10 different Word documents that we routinely use, and they turned them into templates so that now our clerks will be able to kind of at the flick of, I tell them at the flick of a wrist, but they're able to go on there. The information's already in the database for the different, like you said, the contact information for the different parties, for example, and it's very easy for them just to do this automated template. And, with just a couple of clicks, they're able to create a notice of hearing, or they're able to create certain minute orders, or they're able to create certain other payment documents that before would have taken a little bit of time and some uncertainty, and that they have to double check their numbers. But Arctic IT did some of those math calculations for us. So that was a big selling point.
That's awesome. So what about, I know a new trend that maybe has become more prevalent in the COVID era is the virtual court. Have you started doing virtual court hearings and that kind of providing that as an option?
Yeah, that's a good point, because one of the things that we do now is based on the template, we're actually able to generate 3 different types of notices of hearing. So one will let folks know if they need to come to court in person. A different one, we let folks know if they need to come to court via Zoom like this, where they get a link. And then the third is a hybrid where they can choose to come in person or come in Zoom. And that notice sends them all the information that they'll need to do whatever they want to do or whatever the court has them do. So that is a really easy fix because we just upload, just cut and paste the Zoom link in there, and it just generates it into the notice of hearing right where it needs to be. And then we can just send it out, and we can send them out by email or by hard copy. But it gives you both options.
So maybe can you talk a little bit about how your team has been able to actually improve the collaboration and communication with the other, law enforcement agencies and other groups within your organization, and what changes has it allowed you to put in place?
Well, I'd say probably the biggest change is the efficiency. There's less downtime. Sometimes, because we're also a traffic court, we do have a traffic docket, and we might get 10, 20, however many citations at once, and boom, our attorney general or tribal police give us these citations, and for us to process those, in the past it would be, I would say, it would take at least a day to half a day, depending on the complexity of the citations. Now we can do that in maybe a morning or less than the morning, just awesome. In a couple of hours, hour and a half, it's done. So that is just that time, you just get that time back, and so we can spend it on other things. That's great. That's a great story. So anything else you want to share? Just that we're really satisfied with the solution. Like I said, it's kind of it was a long haul from the original database, and it's just a day and night change from that to this. And I think people, when they first we had our clerks, they were a little bit scared of it because they remember the old database and all the nightmares they had with that. But I think I would say we're happy. We're happy with what we have. That's awesome. And one of the outcomes is obviously saving you time. It's not just a money aspect, but it's saving your team time and in being able to improve your service delivery, right? Correct. But allow your court to actually be more efficient and process more cases more quickly than maybe you could before, right? Right. And we've actually, or have time to do other projects such as self-help and deal with the individuals more and the technology less, because we've got that taken care of. That's awesome. It's a great story. So if any others have any questions, you can definitely post those in the chat, and we'll take those questions when we get to the end. But with that, we will move on to let's dive into the solution demo. So I'm going to pause here and bring up the application. So the first thing you'll notice is that I'm operating inside of a browser. So that's an important element for you to understand, that being it's a software as a service application, I can access this from my desktop or my laptop, or I can be on my phone. So I can readjust, or the application adjusts the screen to what you have available to you. So you can be on the road and look up a case or look up a note and be able to answer questions in real time. We actually hear that on occasion where as long as you've got a phone with internet access, you can pull up the application, log in with your credentials, and be able to access the information that you need to be able to do your daily work. And another important aspect to point out is that right now I'm logged in as a demo account user, but the account that you log into it is actually the same account that you would use for your Office 365. So the login that you make to your laptop or your Outlook or any of those applications, you're going to use that same set of credentials to log in to authenticate yourself. So that's an important element that for your IT team, you're leveraging the security and the user authentication that your team is already using today. You're not having to log into a new system. So that's an important point to make, is that we're keeping the data sovereign,
to your nation so that it's stored and saved inside a subscription in a storage area that is owned by you and your IT team, and you get to decide who has access to that information. And you may not grant anyone access to it other than your own staff, but that's an important aspect, is making sure that we're maintaining data sovereignty for your organization with this platform. Okay, so we start out typically we look at some dashboards, and what we've included is just a couple dashboards that are available to your organization. So you can, and we organize these dashboards by role, but you can absolutely adjust these dashboards or create your own. Let's say this information isn't quite exactly the way you want it. You can pick other views, you can do other sorts, but this is a live query into all the court hearings or the open court cases or the cases by type. And again, keep in mind, this is all demo data, so there's nothing real here, but it gives you an idea of the dashboard and the flexibility of the application to give you that, real quick view of information that you need to do. Start your day, say, hey, here are the cases I need to work on, tasks I need to complete for my role, and I can organize that information into one dashboard for my team. And as a point, I want to also show how this view would differ for a judge. So for example, I'm logged into this browser as myself, which happened to be assigned as a judge. So you could see that the information that I'm displaying on the screen is now specific to me. So now I'm logging in and I can see my cases, my hearings that are scheduled. I can see all the court hearings if I need that. But you can organize these dashboards in exactly the way that a judge wants to see the data. But what you're seeing here is the role-based security. So you can define who is a judge, who is a court clerk, and at a granular level, define who has access to what data and records within the system. So that's a really powerful aspect and capability, is that you've got the flexible way to manage access to the data. All right. So, and of course, starting out with this application, you'll notice that you can use it to have queries. In many other systems, you typically have reports that you have to run to see this information. But essentially now you have the ability to say, I can run a query, and this is a live query of the data, and it returns either all the court cases, only those that are open, so I could get to see all closed or open. And from here, I can actually do quick searches. So I maybe do a quick search to come up with a case or a case number. I can come up with, or 107. So that's a wild card, right? And it comes back and searches that case number. So it provides me great capabilities to, see the information very easily, get a quick review of the status of everything. And from here, typically a standard process is to then say, hey, I need to be able to print my report or my court docket. So I can pick this and say, okay, I need my court docket for this week. And I can pick the specific room for the courtroom and then go ahead and run that report. And again, this is designed as a template, but it's very flexible, and we would actually adjust this court docket template specific to your requirements and your format. So that's another aspect of why we've chosen this platform, is that it gives us a very flexible and robust ability to adjust this overall solution to specific court requirements that you might have that we haven't implemented in the core solution. And that's exactly what we did with Sonia and her team at Shingle Springs. So now let's take a look at maybe a couple different types of cases. So one, we can say, all right, I'm going to open up this case, and now I can see its status, and I can, track this and as either open or closed. If there's a disposition on the case, as it moves through, I can change the status or set the disposition of the case, capture, the name of the case. If it's assigned to a specific court, I can select that court, and that is, as you could see what Sonia needed on for Shingle Springs was the ability to select multiple courts, and that way it would show up on that specific list and dashboard. A key aspect is being able to adjust this list of case types. So we've got some examples of example case types that come out of the box, but we understand that your court handles maybe different cases like this and have different abbreviations for them. So this is designed to be configured for you and to match your business process related to each of the court case types. So there can be different steps and so forth and data that's collected based on that case type. And that's implemented through something what we call business rules. You can set the case type, and then business rules behind the scenes can then enforce what data is required or hide certain fields based on that case type. So that's an important capability so that you can react to the information that you need to have collected based on that court type or the case type. And of course, we can use this as a way to assign who is the judge, assign a clerk, and be able to capture who is the primary respondent petitioner. So you can see there's a lot of information here that I can collect on this case. And again, we don't anticipate that we will have everything. So it's very flexible to allow you to adjust the fields and information that's visible on here. We capture the clerk to-do items. So in some cases, you might have a template for certain activities based on this case type that you need the court clerk to actually complete. We can actually have workflows automated behind the scenes that create that set of to-do items or reminders or tasks that the clerk needs to complete during the course of that case. And then with this, we can actually capture the list of court parties that are involved. So an important element of this is I'm going to dive into looking at, for example, here's a person, and I can define their role and their relationship to this case. So I could open up Alicia and I can select these options of how am I related to this specific case, whether I be, an interested party, a mediator, police, victim, witness. So you have lots of different options here to collect all the different people that are related to this case and what is their involvement. And then if there's hearings, are they required to attend or not? So that defines the rule of how those notices and so forth are actually sent out for hearings and that kind of activity. And then of course, hearings are kind of the central aspect of this. So with this court hearing, I can create new hearings, and it will allow me to attach documents to that appointment that will be sent out. So I can use a template to email that information and then send it to those related parties. But I can also get this view from a calendar perspective as well. So I can change this and say, okay, here are my cases this week, or I can move or actually change that by month. So if I want to see it this way. So there's multiple different ways to view this information in the solution. And of course, in this case, because it's a custody scenario, there might just be a judgment that's involved, and that judgment might say, yes, it's been affirmed. Sonia was ordered to pay child support. So what that does is we can actually then trigger the fines and fees. And this is a case where we're actually creating this type of fines and fees related to this case. So you can have multiple different types of you can say, hey, he's ordered to pay $300 a month, and what day it's due, and the judgment. You can capture all those details related to that case. All right. So one thing I do want to point out here, let's go back to, so now I can see this information from the court case. So all the people involved, the calendars, the citation, charges, judgments, and then we'll see a little bit more about some of the other features. But one thing I want to point out now is I actually drill into what's called a court profile. So I can see the contact person, and what I'm capturing is their name, maybe their social information. And again, this information may be available or shared with the enrollment team. So if your enrollment team has tribal platforms enrollment, they would be able to see and maintain their name or their birth date or update their address information on their record and be able to see certain types of data. I'm logged again because I'm logged in as an administrator, I get to see everything. But if for certain people that don't have access to the court data, they wouldn't even see any of these court hearing appointments or these phone calls or emails that were sent from the court team out to the individual. So but yet this provides the ability for your team, the court team, to be able to collaborate on an individual, but yet share information with the enrollment team when it's appropriate, such as updating their address or phone contact information. But now we have what we have called this court profile, and this court profile record is a private set of information that is only visible to the court team. So I can, in this case, it's an individual, but you might want to capture their legal ID or their driver's license information. But now from the individual perspective, I can see all the different cases that this individual has been involved in, and what their relationship was on that case. And from here, I can see fines and fees. If I had a citation and I had to pay a certain amount, I could see that the amount was $10 and the total balance is $0. So that means that she's actually paid that fee. So I can use this as a way to keep track of all the different data. We'll see this in another place, how we could track the fines and fees and then the related payments to those. He was evading, it was a traffic scenario and he was evading arrest. We got the date information that's related to it, the judge it's assigned, and it was reported by the tribal police. So we could see, who was required to attend. He may have an attorney that was assigned him, so we can capture who that attorney was. And then, of course, we can see all the hearings that were related to this. But then what this can then do is capture all the different citations that were involved. And one point that I want to make here is that with each of these citations, I can actually create a table of all the different violations that are available, so you can standardize the reporting for you to be able to say, here I can capture the statute that they violated and update the information. What is the recommended fine amount, or is there a non-financial penalty involved, such as community service and so forth. But this can capture all the different details around that violation and make it as a reference for your court team.
Bryan, can I chime in with something on
Yep,
this?
absolutely.
So one of the things that we've done on these kind of traffic things also is it gives us a chance. We can actually upload pictures of, we can upload documents, and a lot of that is we upload pictures of the evidence that's given, that's filed by tribal police or the attorney general. So we keep it all in the case file itself. So when the judge is looking at this at the hearing, he can call this up and not only see the initial information like you should have just showed, he can actually go into the appended documents and view the evidence or view the documents for himself. That's just important to us.
Yep. No, thank you for that. That's an important aspect of all these cases, to be able to securely store the documents. And there's actually a process, because the documents are actually stored in a repository called SharePoint behind the scenes. And what that does is it gives you another secured area to keep those documents, and you can apply records management rules to those documents as well. So if cases expire or are closed out, those documents are retained in a secure repository for later reference if needed. So that's an important aspect of having a solution like this, is to really have a robust document management capability built into the overall solution. But the good news is your judge doesn't even know that they're using, that there's a secured storage behind the scenes. It's just available to them right on the case. So they can definitely access those documents. And another point I want to make, and thank you for pointing that out, Sonia, is the ability to track the audit history. So I can see all the changes that have been made to the case itself. So you can see if I change the case ID or the dates or any information, I can see who made the change, what was an update or create, what was a previous value and what was a new value. So this is important. And if, let's say, an inadvertent edit happens on the record, you want to go back and set that value back to what it was. I can go look at the audit history and find out what that was and go reset the value. but it gives you great visibility to manage the information that's on this case. All right, so in this case, because like we pointed out that we had these citations and the ability to reference all the others, the violations and so forth, we can then dive into that citation, and then from here we actually transfer this to a charge. So by clicking the option, it automatically creates this charge record, and then this is reviewed by the judge, and from here, then they can say, what the outcome of this is, and then they can add additional notes, and from here they can then create the actual judgment. So the judgment gets affirmed in this case, or goes through a process to be able to assign, what that disposition is for this judgment on that citation or that violation. So then here is where we could say, okay, I can override the fine amount because it can default from the charge or the violation. But then what it does is by clicking this option, it automatically will create the fine and related fees for this. So I can click on this fine and fee to say, okay, this individual, Sonny, owes $1,200, and the due date, I can set the due date, but he's going to go on a payment plan and he's going to make $50 payments for a period of time. So this is a way to track those actual payments. So I can see that this individual has come in and when they made a payment, and we could print a receipt for the individual on these scenarios, so they can pay the $50 initial fee, but then track the individual check numbers or details of what they've actually paid on this, and it shows their balance due. So I can drill back into Sonny's record, and now you can see that this individual has had multiple fines and fees, and it summarizes all that information, and it shows me all their balance information for how much they still owe on each of these fines and fees. And then this is where I can actually create all the payments that they've made, so I can apply these payments when they come in to make those payments, apply those to the appropriate fine and fee. But this gives you one dashboard, one place to be able to see all of the fees that this individual may owe, and then track that information. I know it's a lot of information in a short period of time, but that gives you a brief overview of the capabilities. Oh, actually, I wanted to come back here and show the capability that Sonia pointed out with being able to use these templates. I'm actually on the wrong record, so I need to go to that case. Let me go to this case here. And now this is that notion of that word template that Sonia mentioned before. So this is where you can actually create these word files that you typically send out to your or give out to your either the plaintiffs or the respondents, and you can actually then adjust these layouts or the text or the graphics and so forth that are on these documents in Word. And then once we set these up and configure them to automatically load the information such as the case number, the dates, who is the petitioner, who's the respondent, the amounts, I can have their current address. So I can default all this information from the case record and print and then get this into a Word format. And now I can either print it out or edit it. If I need to edit this document, I can actually edit it here and then save it as a PDF and distribute this to the individual. So that, and we understand we typically don't, have those Word templates, or you have your own. So you can give us, that's part of the implementation, is for you to give us those Word documents that you use today, and then we would relate those to the specific case types in the system.
And Bryan, I have to say that the programmers are very good about working with us, because there were certain forms that we went back and forth, and they had the patience to go back and forth. At one point, we were actually talking about what is the correct shade of red of the box to go around. I mean, they had the patience to go with us there, so that was nice.
That's great. And then one key point to that is, now that we've got those templates in the system, you don't necessarily need us to make those changes to those templates. You can actually save those templates in a folder, and if you need to edit it, update the wording, something on that template, you can make those adjustments and then re-upload those templates. So you don't need us to make those changes, you can actually apply those changes yourself and upload them, and now they're available for everyone else using the system. So with that, I think that's pretty much the end of my portion of the demonstration. So if we want, we can switch gears and I can either stop sharing or Michelle, if you've got any questions that have come in.
Yeah, we do. We've got 4 or 5 of them. So
Okay,
I'll
great.
just start from the first one here. I think this might be directed towards you, Sonia. It says, not sure about California, but does Shingle Springs hold criminal cases? The purpose would be to provide criminal disposition information for background checks. Does the system have that capability?
So we don't do criminal, well, I should back up. We don't directly do criminal cases. We are a joint jurisdiction court. So we do share jurisdiction in certain types of cases, including some criminal cases with the county. And what that is the county takes the lead on those, and we are a post-sentencing court that provide the services in criminal cases for youth up to age 24. So in that sense, we do have some of the criminal histories that happen at the county level, and we transfer that information into our own database so that we have it. We didn't build it in, but I know that there is, and I remember seeing in the template, and I think Bryan showed, where there are certain drop downs where you can put in the different dispositions. So they will add whatever dispositions your particular dockets use. That said, we do background checks for in foster care, tribal foster care system cases related to custody that or like guardianships, custody of minors that the tribal court does handle. So we do tend to put those in the court profile information because we know that, for example, to get somebody licensed, to get somebody background checked for having a child, there's certain information that is key to know. And so we do have the capability of putting those into the court profile. So I don't know if that answers your question.
And actually that's a good segue, because I have heard that request to be able to capture background and check information and be able to have some of that historical information on the court profile. So that is actually something that we've added to the feature list for a future upgrade to the core solution to allow you to add those background check records, whether they come from an automated system or at least a place to capture their prior arrest record, for example. That might be some information that could be related to that core profile.
But if somebody gives us also they run the background check, and we have the background check being given to us, we upload that into the person's file as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Great question.
All right. Next one is asking, what if we're not using 365 or any cloud from Microsoft, on-prem Office and on-prem domain?
So right now, this solution is actually not available in on-premise. So that's something that we could absolutely work with you to establish, what would it take to get a small Office 365 subscription set up. But today it's not available as an on-premise implementation.
All right, next question. Does the court's payment functionality come with payment gateway integration?
So we have the ability to be able to do that. But we find that every tribe has their own payment gateway technology or something that they're already using. So we typically don't build that into the core solution, and that could be an add-on. So that when we start an engagement with you, we can actually hook that up inside the system to allow you to either through the portal or through some mechanism to be able to say, okay, this individual Sonny owes $300. They can pass that information through the gateway and the payment gateway to capture that, do that fund transaction. But typically that's so unique to the individual tribe that we include that as a kind of a customization or configuration specific to your organization.
All right, next question. Do you have to get the full software suite in order to use the tribal court application?
Yeah, the short answer is no. You can actually implement this as a standalone court solution although we recommend working with the enrollment and the other departments, but you can absolutely use this as a standalone court application for your team.
We use it as standalone.
Next question, does the system have trigger reminder notifications of things to do or cases that have not had any update for a long period of time?
So there's a couple different ways that we could handle that. We could either track those through activities that are on those cases or have due dates on different on different cases. So you can have the initiation date or define what is the last time that anything was loaded. So I can create reminders or tasks related to their record to be able to see that emails and so forth that open. Or let's see, there should be that history of all the different, emails and phone calls and so forth that was communicated. But you can actually have those dates or due dates for the next task on here. So typically, I think, Sonia, how do you handle that today with your team?
We run reports. You're able to filter out by certain dates, like I think before or after a certain date, and we run reports.
So you run a query like this to say, I only want to see the courts that are older than such and such date.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so there can be tasks or appointments or reminders that can be automatically created, or you can create as on these cases to be able to keep those cases moving forward.
All right, next question. Can you post messages about upcoming court proceedings or anything related to the court to the membership portal of the individual tribal citizen?
So I think the question is related to an individual, or is it just in general for through the portal?
To me, I'm reading that as could you post something to that person's individual portal?
Right. So that is actually one thing with the portal. Individuals can actually log in and they can see their own information. So that is one capability where the portal they can sign in and they can get their personal information. So they can see their appointments, their cases, that information, and see their payments. So that is one member engagement tool that is available, that you can expose this court proceeding or the court hearing information to the individual, and they would only see their data related to their court profile. So yes, absolutely, that can be done. Can be done in the community portal. Great question.
Yeah. So this question, I think, is a follow-up to the question when we were talking about the on-prem office or prem domain. Can Arctic support non-affiliated accounts or local accounts?
You mean like an account on my local desktop, you mean? I think that's what that question means. Yeah, so right now, because we're not an on-premise implementation, no, there's really no local account. You need to use like an Office 365 login, and that's typically hooked up to your IT team. Usually has like an Active Directory login for you to connect on your local machine. But then that's synchronized to say you are who you say you are, and you log in with those credentials to the hosted software as a solution. So right, it doesn't really have the notion of a local account. You have to authenticate yourself, and so we know what data you have access to, and assign the security role so that we make sure that the proper security is applied.
Next question is asking, does the system have color codes to highlight records?
So that is a new capability that is coming out in the platform, where we can actually apply some of those color coding to the different statuses, such as dispositions or case status like this. So that is a new capability that's coming out in the platform that Microsoft is delivering. So that's something that we can pass on in the application. We just haven't done it yet. So that capability is coming.
Are you able to email from the system?
Absolutely. So that is one of the benefits that we get from the solution. I can either use this as a way to email a link from here but I can, like I showed here earlier, we got the activities, and I can create a new activity and generate this email. And the email itself, I can, send it from myself, but I can also apply a template. So I can upload and define different email templates for communication, standard communication. And I don't have any loaded in this environment, but it gives you the idea how you can pick one of these templates, and it will automatically fill in the information and then apply that to the email. And now I can go in and edit it and do whatever I want with it. So yes, it absolutely can email directly from the system, and it goes out as you. So it knows who you are, and then that connects it through your current email system in your organization.
All right. And then I have a question here. It says, what are all the other departments?
So the other departments could be like the enrollment team, the family and social services team. So I think, Sonia, you guys have a family social services team as well, right?
We do, a very large. We have an education department, a social services department, the attorney general, the legal department, and obviously tribal police. So yeah, we have different ones that we communicate with through the system.
And that's actually, we're seeing where requests that are coming in, either they can be ICWA cases or other types of cases. They can come, and be initiated either from the court, or they can be initiated from the Family and Child Services, or initiated from enrollment. So there's multiple different ways to share that information and create cases, given the proper permissions, right? To track all those cases that might, you might have the Child Family Service might have a domestic violence scenario. And they want to create a related case for the offender in that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, the system is designed to work with many different departments, like you said, with education, housing, enrollment, and social services.
All right, and the last question I see right now is asking about a cost.
So we actually have a couple different aspects from a cost. One is there's a little bit of Microsoft licensing that is involved. So you pay for what's called a Microsoft Power Apps per user seat. It's relatively inexpensive, but that's a new subscription that you pay to Microsoft. And then there's a subscription cost for the tribal court solution that is both for the application itself and the support that goes along with it. So Sonia and her team, if she has a question or something isn't quite right, she has a number that she can call, and we will, pick up the phone. She can say, hey, I'm having a problem with such and such. We can dive in and investigate and resolve the issue. So there's the support costs for that and the subscription that's included with that. And then there's the initial upfront implementation cost. And that implementation cost is sitting down with you, configuring the system to meet your tribal court needs, making sure that the names of the documents are all set up the way you need. So that's the initial setup and what we call an implementation. So there's actually 3 different layers. So there's Microsoft subscription, Arctic IT subscription, and then the upfront implementation. So there's an annual recurring cost, and then the one-time implementation cost that's involved. And obviously, I don't want to give out any numbers, because what we typically do is we sit down, understand what your specific your court needs, and then make the adjustments to make sure that it fits what you would expect to see.
And I would just urge tribes and say that for us, and from tribes that I've heard of as well, that it's very doable through a grant as well. People could, it could come from your budget, but it's one of these things that grantors like to see, because they like to see efficiency, especially federal grantors. So just something to think about. It's a good project for a grant.
Yep. Thank you for that. Great question.
And then another question is, what is the turnaround time for support requests?
So it typically it depends on the impact of your team. So most often we have a support center that covers all the different time zones across the United States. So we keep those some extended business hours for providing support, but our primary support center is actually down in Plano, Texas, so they can handle those phone calls. But we typically, you make that phone call, we try and jump on it right away, depending on that impact to your team. We'll get somebody investigating that as quickly as possible. And that actually, that's one aspect where when you work with us, if there's a problem and it's actually with maybe the software, the services that Microsoft provides, we can actually escalate to Microsoft on your behalf and get Microsoft team members investigating issues, depending on what kind of issue it is. So you're not just paying for our support, you're getting access to Microsoft support as well, because we will represent you and have support calls to work through that. So we typically try and get those, jump on those issues when you call right away. But yeah, there's a tiered response time for all the different support questions.
All right, guys, that was the last question. That was some good stuff there. Holy cow.
Thank you. Great questions, everyone.
Yeah, that was really great. Bryan and Sonia, thank you so much for coming on today. This was super informative. We had a great audience, and so I'm really glad we're able to do this together. I put your email address in the chat if anybody would like to reach out to you directly for more information. And again, we'll send out an email tomorrow with a copy of this recording for you to share with anyone on your team who couldn't make it today.
Right,
any last words, Bryan, Sonia?
Thank you for everyone for attending. I appreciate everyone sticking with the presentation, and definitely encourage you to reach out if you want to learn more about the solution or get a private demo. We can definitely schedule that with your team and get you to answer or get some hands-on experience with it.
Yes, thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions if anything comes up. You can always reach me through Bryan or anybody at Arctic IT.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. And thank you, everybody. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.